Oilers Nation? Tyler and Caroline here on your giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Tyler, what's up? How are you doing today?
It's a Saturday, so always great to be talking a little hockey. It's a Saturday, and those have been pretty kind to the Oilers this year as well. And boy, could they ever use the 2 points tonight after that performance against Chicago.
I know. Let's talk about it. Obviously, 4-3 loss in OT, a game that frustrated many Oilers fans, especially Bagged Milk. If you're around Bagged Milk at all, he was not happy with the Oilers' performance, rightfully so, because it was sloppy. And it was like they almost deviated from the things that made them really good in the last couple of games. And it was just it wasn't a game that they deserved to win.
No, not at all. Like, they're very lucky they got a point. Like, if you go back through each of those Chicago goals, the Lafferty goal, no idea how you let a fourth liner have that much time in front of the net. The Patrick Kane goal, it was Draisaitl not getting the puck out. Darnell Nurse completely flying the zone as well because he assumed Draisaitl would get the puck out and was just thinking kind of too far ahead. And then the third goal, the Dom Kubalik goal, was a bad play by Koskinen behind the net, who had a pretty good game. Like, he stopped 28 of 32 shots. Like, he had some big moments. Definitely wasn't his best game of the year, but that turnover was really ugly, and it cost the Oilers. But luckily for them, they got that clutch goal late from Evander Kane. They were able to squeak out a point, and they come out of the road trip with 5 out of the possible 10 points, which I suppose you got to give them a passing grade for that.
You know what? So quickly in the Facebook chat, hey, everyone, we got Alex saying, whoop, whoop, happy Saturday, everyone. Watching you guys on my lunch break. Thank you for joining us, Alex. And then Jake saying, how jacked are we to see a full house against the Habs on a Saturday night? So we'll get to the Habs in just a second. But obviously, we're excited because we want to finish the day off with 2 points. Let's quickly go back to goaltending. Mikko's been such a solid presence in net for the Edmonton Oilers. And he did have a good game until the wheels kind of fell off for a little bit for him when he gifted Kubalik that goal. I think what the issue is for Edmonton fans, and I was kind of going through a lot of comment sections, is that they don't know what they're going to get from a Mike Smith or a Mikko Koskinen on any given night. And I think the bottom line problem is that we don't have a solid starting goaltender. So Mikko Koskinen has that giveaway. Today it's Mike Smith. Every single day is kind of a toss-up. We don't know what we're going to get. Mikko Koskinen kind of goes on a hot run, and then we know he's kind of due for a moment or a game. Yeah. And that's not saying anything bad about Mikko, but that's just, the way it is. And there was one woman in the Facebook comments who said our goaltending is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And I think that is a very accurate representation of the goaltending scene in Edmonton right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, even if you just go back through Mike Smith's game logs, like, against Anaheim back on February 17th, 900 save percentage. Followed it up with a 429 save percentage against Minnie, 818 against Tampa Bay, and then he kind of rebounded against Carolina as well. So he's been up and down as well. With Mikko, a solid run, but you're right. Even when you get that solid run from an Oilers goalie, every fan's just kind of sitting there holding their breath, being like, all right, when are the wheels coming off here?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It kind of goes into our next conversation of a playoff position. Right now, we're 4th in the Pacific. Yeah. We're just, right under the Vegas Golden Knights. And we play the Habs tonight, which is hopefully a must-win for the Oilers. But after that, we're playing Calgary, we're playing Washington, we're playing Tampa Bay. The Oilers can't afford to lose must-win games like they did against Chicago.
Yeah, and that was really the frustrating part with the loss to Chicago, is just that that's a team you need to just get the 2 points against. And at least they managed to bring it to overtime. Yep. But especially when you look at the out-of-town scoreboard, and like Vegas yesterday, they took care of business. They beat Anaheim. Dallas and Winnipeg, they went to overtime. That's the worst case scenario. LA managed to come back and beat the Blue Jackets in overtime as well. So everyone else seems to be kind of taking care of business around the Western Conference. Tonight, especially, coming off a game where you let a point slip and you didn't do as well as you should have, tonight against a really weak Montreal team, you need to make sure you get 2 points because, again, everyone around you is getting the points that they're supposed to. You need to do the same thing.
Quickly, let's put like a spotlight and some positivity around Evander Kane. And we've talked about him a few times, in the last couple of weeks on our pregame show, but 2 goals for him on the night against the Blackhawks, 13 points in 16 games for the Oilers. And I think what Edmonton Oilers are loving about this addition is that he's silently like almost a fan favorite right now. It was great bang for our buck and an overall great signing for for Edmonton right now.
Yeah, and they don't get a point at all if it's not for Evander Kane against Chicago. He has the 2 goals. He puts up 7 shots on net as well. You saw him kind of sparring with Tyler Johnson at one of the faceoffs. He's still bringing that energy. He's finding a way to bring some offense. 7 goals in 16 games, 27 games left in the season, 26 games left in the season. Like, this guy's probably going to score another 10 for the Oilers down the stretch, and he's been well worth that $2.1 million cap hit that they gave him. And especially now, like, at the time, it was a good signing. Now it's even more important when Nuge is out, Puljujarvi's out, Yamamoto wasn't 100% for a while there. Like, with all these injuries, having that extra layer of scoring depth in Evander Kane has been huge.
Cody Ceci played his 600th NHL career game right now. 2 goals, 13 assists for the D-man here in Edmonton. What do you think about Cody Ceci here?
He's been great for the Oilers. I mean, Evan Bouchard, with having a youngster on that right side, you know there's going to be some rough moments. Tyson Barrie, you know, never really been good in his own end, but Cody Ceci's been the one constant on that right side. He's given them solid minutes on the PK. He's a guy you can trust on the ice with 5 minutes to go. And when they signed him, I wasn't thrilled about it because it looked like, you know, a subpar replacement for Adam Larson. And I still don't think he's quite as effective as Adam Larson was in that role. But for $3.2 million, I mean, you got to be happy with what Ceci's brought to the table here. He's a guy who, I mean, early in his career, you would have saw him back with the Toronto Maple Leafs and a little bit with the Ottawa Senators. He was a tire fire at times in his own end. But the saying always is that you need to give NHL, you need to give a defenseman, you know, kind of 300-400 games to know what they are. And by 600 games, they're established. And Ceci now at that 600 game mark, I think has established himself as a pretty good top 4 defenseman.
I love to hear it as a former Toronto Maple Leaf, but then going on to another former Toronto Maple Leaf, Tyson Barrie out for 7 to 10 days. We all know how Tyler Yamchuk feels about Tyson Barrie at times. Is it a loss for the Oilers? Is it not the end of the world for the Oilers? Obviously, we hope, that Tyson Barrie comes back full health and a good recovery, but I don't think it's the end of the world.
The only bad part for this is just that he's a right shot, and with Chris Russell out of the lineup, Slater Cuckoo's in the minors, they don't have another natural right shot to throw on that side. You got Ceci, you got Bouchard, and now you're going to be flipping Willie Lagesson over to the right side, or, I mean, are you going to flip Niemelainen or Keith over to that right side? Neither of those are really ideal. Niemelainen doesn't have the experience, and if you move Keith to the right side, then your left side's even more inexperienced. Just the fact that he's a right shot who knew how to play in the NHL, and you take that out, the Oilers don't have a natural replacement for him. It does go to show that they probably do need to add some sort of depth on their blue line before the trade deadline, because one injury to the right side and you're flipping left shots to the right side, and it's really not ideal. But the good news is, I think Woodcroft said today that he's only day to day. They're not going to call it week to week, so he might only miss the next sort of 6, 7, 8 days, which is good for the Oilers. They need him in the lineup just because they don't have any other options, right? And that's kind of the frustrating part with this injury.
Got a lot of chats in the Facebook chat, comments in the Facebook chat. So thank you guys, everyone, for taking the time to do so. Right now, Will saying, glad to hear an honest assessment of how bad it was to lose to Chicago for the second time in weeks. Too many fans happy with 1 out of 4 points against Chicago. So, that's our job, guys. We love the Oilers. Obviously, we want to see them succeed, but that game should have been a win. And
should have been 2 points.
And they didn't deserve it either, so that's the scary part.
And then you go look at the standings right now, and you're 2 back of Vegas, but you have a game in hand. Okay, well, if you would have gotten that extra point you needed against Chicago, tonight you'd be sitting there going, with a win, you're leapfrogging Vegas. And then with a win, you're moving into a tie with the Los Angeles Kings. And right now, coming down the stretch with 27 games to go, you just can't let easy points like that slip through your fingers.
Absolutely. Linda from Arizona says, hi. Hi, Linda. And right now, our chat is popping with Montreal Canadiens comments. So right now, let's move on to our opposition report presented by Yeg Burger. We'll start with a couple comments right now. Don says, Montreal isn't weak right now. Jake says, not sure what the Habs record is in the last 10 games, but they have been rolling. We can't take them lightly tonight. Don also said that the Habs beat Calgary the other night, which they did. So we can go right on to everything that we're going to talk about the Habs, who are one of the worst teams in the league, but as everyone's commenting, they're right. They had a little bit of a hot streak where they won 5 games in a row, but then they were silenced by the Jets in an 8-0 loss. But they're coming off of a big OT win against the Flames on Thursday night, and obviously Nick Suzuki in that game contributing a goal and 2 assists on the night, and team leading 37 points at the moment. So a team that has a pretty terrible record, 14-37-4, but they've shown that they're able to get those games, under their belt and get the job done. Hopefully that's not the case tonight against the Edmonton Oilers, but a game that is essential to win, 2 points, and that the Oilers need to take care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. This Canadiens team is playing a lot better as of late, specifically since Marty St. Louis kind of took over and was able to implement some things with this lineup. They've outshot their opposition in 3 straight games. They've outscored the opposition at 5-on-5 in 6 straight games, actually. So this is a Habs team that's playing pretty good at even strength. I believe they're pretty healthy right now as well. I mean, aside from the obvious like Weber and Carey Price injuries, but they're rolling pretty good. The one big thing is that Andrew Hammond was between the pipes for a lot of those wins. Andrew Hammond got hurt. They actually had to call up Caden Primo on an emergency basis, and they're going to be starting Sam Montembeault tonight. So yes, a big win against the Calgary Flames. Andrew Hammond was a big part of that, but they're not going to have him tonight. So, I mean, listen, even though Montreal is playing better as of late, this is still a team towards the bottom of the league. This is a team the Oilers beat 7-2 just kind of 6-8 weeks ago. You need to get the 2 points here. And you're back on home ice. That should give this team a bit of a boost. It's back to 100% capacity, and the beers will be flowing. Everyone will be having a good time at Rogers Place. Oilers need to hold up their end of the bargain.
Absolutely. All right, let's head into the lines for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, starting on the top line, you mentioned Nick Suzuki. What a run he's on right now with 8 points in his last 5 games. Josh Anderson, 5 goals in his last 5 games as well. Cole Caulfield's on the left side of that top line. The second line for the Habs is Laurent Dauphin with Brendan Gallagher and Mike Hoffman. Hoffman scored a big goal late for the Habs in that game against the Flames. Jake Evans, Arturi Lehkonen, he could very well fetch a first rounder at the upcoming deadline. And Rem Pitlick on the left side. Ryan Poling with Michael Pizzetta and Yoel Armia is the fourth line. The deep pairings are Alexander Romanov with Ben Sherratt, another guy who could probably fetch a first-rounder at the deadline. Brett Kulak with the Cale Clegg with Chris Weidman is your third pairing. Cale Clegg, a Lloyd-Minster product. Top power play unit for the Habs, Ryan Poling with Cole Caulfield, Josh Anderson, Nick Suzuki, and the point is Chris Weidman. As I said, starting between the pipes, it is Sam Montembeault. He was the guy who got the start the last time the Oilers played the Montreal Canadiens. He did not finish the game. He gave up 6 goals on 16 shots. Oilers eventually won that game 7-2.
Okay, we were talking about this in the office yesterday. Is it Lloyd Minster or Lloyd Minister?
Lloyd Minister. No, yes, Lloyd Minister.
Lloyd Minister, but everyone says Lloyd Minster.
I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like Calgary or Calgary, you know?
Everyone let me know in the comments, because as I'm new to the area, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing everything correctly. But Tyler says Lloyd Minister.
Lloyd Minister. That's how it's spelled.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll see. Let's go into the Oilers lines.
The Oilers lines expecting things to stay relatively the same. McDavid with Fogle and Hyman. When that trio was on the ice at 5-on-5 against the Hawks, they actually outshot Chicago 5-2. The second line for the Oilers, Draisaitl with Kane and Yamamoto. They're coming off a pretty good game. Ryan McLeod with Brad Malone and Derek Ryan. And the fourth line players will be Tyler Benson and Devin Shore. I believe Benson is going to find a way to get back in after missing the last game with a non-COVID related illness. The D pairings for the Oilers, Nurse with Ceci, Keith with Bouchard, Niemelainen, Lagesson, and Philip Broberg are kind of your trio on that third pairing. I wonder how much we'll actually see those 3 guys on the ice, just with there being no Tyson Barrie and sort of a lack of right-handed options for the Oilers. Might be one of those games where Nurse, Ceci, Keith, and Bouchard have to play a little bit more than expected. I also wouldn't mind seeing Jay Woodcroft flip Ceci and Bouchard. Go back to Nurse with Bouchard. That duo's work together. Keith and Bouchard really didn't do much for me in the last game against Chicago. They had some really rough moments. Bouchard's kind of been fighting it a little bit as of late as well. So put him with your best D-man. Put him with Darnell Nurse. That's what I would do on the blue line, but it was an optional skate today, so we don't know exactly what the Oilers' plans are. And yes, as the chat says, Bruce Almighty, Smith is starting, we're losing. I mean, probably unfair in that regard. I believe Smith would have been in net the last time the Oilers played the Montreal Canadiens. Oh, no, he wasn't. Was it Mikko or was it Stewart? It was Stewart? All right, Liam says it was Stewart, so we'll trust him on that.
But it's a lot of comments right now about goaltending, too. In the Facebook chat, Alex saying the ship has flipped. Right now, I'm more afraid of Smith's first couple shots going in on net instead of Mikko letting in the first shot. If Smith starts hard, we'll get the W. Confidence wins games.
I think so. Like the first kind of 5-10 minutes here are going to be important for the Oilers in this hockey game. Get out there, establish your pace, and don't give the Habs any hope. This is a team who, when you look back at the games they've been winning, it's because the opposition's just letting them linger around and the games are tied late. You need to put the pedal to the floor early, get one early on Montembeault and kind of crush his confidence a little bit, and make life easy on Smith in those first kind of 5 minutes. He ended up having good numbers against Carolina. I kind of talked about how I still wasn't too confident, and I'm not too confident in Smith, but a .931 save percentage against Carolina. If he has a .931 save percentage tonight, I don't think the Oilers lose this hockey game.
Great comment from Jake in our Facebook chat. He says, I don't know about you guys, but I've not been happy with Fogle on McDavid's wing. I know that there's been a lot of injuries and they don't have a lot of options, but I would like to see something different. Just pulling up Fogle's stats right now, too. I'm with you. I think Fogle had a couple of really rough moments in that hockey game, and I don't see enough upside there to kind of justify him being in the top 6. When they're healthy, he's not, and it's not a conversation.
I would move. I like McLeod in the top 6. I think McLeod's a fine left winger. You can flip Hyman to the right side and it works well. The only issue is with no Nuge and no Puljujarvi, you don't have that third line center with no Nuge. So then what are you going to do? Is Devin Shore going to be your third line center? I see Kylie as a comment, respectfully would never like to see or would love to not see Shore in our lineup again. I think a lot of Oilers fans feel that way because he's not bringing a lot. So, maybe you shift Derek Ryan back to the middle, then you go Draisaitl and McDavid, and that allows you to throw McLeod up to the top 6. But I agree with the commenter.
Yeah.
Like I'm not getting a lot out of Fogle right now.
Well, just for context, the last time Fogle had a point in a game was on February 26th against Florida, and that was an assist, as I said. And the last time he scored a goal was on February 17th against the Ducks.
And he's been playing with McDavid for a lot of that too. Like you need to get going a little bit. He's getting some time on that second power play unit. They're not getting enough out of him.
Yeah. All right. Where are you putting your money today? Bet of the game presented by PointsBet.
Yeah. Let's take a peek at things right now. The Oilers, they are favorites in this hockey game, as you could have expected. Minus 261 on the money line. In regulation, it's minus 160. And on the puck line, it is minus 105. What do I like?
How about
Oilers?
Evander Kane? Because that was, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, that was his first game as an Oiler against the Habs, and he scored.
Yeah.
So maybe he can repeat history a little.
He's plus 130 to find the back of the net tonight. So, yeah, coming off a 2-goal game as well. A lot of the player props have been pretty priced up just with the Oilers playing a weak opponent like they are. Like Draisaitl's minus 152 to be an anytime goal scorer. You pretty much never see that for like any player in the NHL. But Draisaitl's obviously on a bit of a tear right now in the goal scoring department. I don't hate McDavid at minus 117. The one bet I talked about last game that I didn't end up doing, and I regret it because it hit, is a Darnell Nurse assist. That one's at plus 135. That's not really a bad spot either. I think I might just be going Oilers puck line tonight. I know Bagged Milk is not going to like that I say that because when I bet puck line, I'm usually wrong. But I think the Oilers can roll tonight. The over's an interesting spot too, just because you don't know what you're going to get with Mike Smith. Over's hitting back-to-back games for the Habs as well. So I think I might go Oilers puck line and a little Evander Kane goal. I don't mind that either.
Yay, okay, I love that. And guys, lots of positivity today from Oilers fans. Simon from Sweden said, keep it up, go Oilers, go. Hey, Simon, thank you for joining us all the way from Sweden. And Claudette saying, go Oilers, work hard, pedal to the floor for the whole 60 minutes. So lots of positivity. And again, a team that is, we should beat, we can beat, we're capable, and 2 points. We should finish today with 2 points.
Bruce said McLeod with McDavid and Pouliot worked very well when they played together, and that's why I would consider moving him up. Like he skates well. I think he thinks the game a little bit better in the offensive zone than Fogle does too. I would take a look at McLeod on the top line tonight. Soren says Kane should fight. I'm surprised we haven't seen an Evander Kane fight yet. He's a guy who's never really been afraid throughout his career to drop the mitts. Bearded Brad says he thinks we're getting a Leon Hattie tonight. Brad, that means you're going to be stumbling into bed if that happens. So best of luck. Who knows? I mean, Saturday night, like I said, the Oilers have been great on Saturdays so far this season, going 9-2-1. Saturday games where that start at 5 o'clock, like tonight's does, Oilers are 2-0. They've beaten Montreal, and who would have been that other win now? I'm actually blanking on who the other win was. But
5. I don't remember what I did 2 days ago, so I can't help you out.
Either way, they're 2-0.
And shout out to Tyler Uremchuk for finding those stats.
Yeah, counting them up.
Yeah, I love it. All right, everyone, this has been your Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford, and we'll see you guys on Twitter.